You're very welcome along. Said I'd jump on and talk a little bit about GAA Congress taking place Friday and Saturday. You hear a lot of noise and maybe the main motions, but I'll try and go through as many of the 25 motions as we can. Some of them quite irrelevant, or at least irrelevant to majority of people listening and viewing. So I won't spend too long talking about them, but just to go through, just give people an idea, the boringness of some of this before getting into some of the main topics, including the split season, and I'll give you my honest opinion on that. But let's go through some of the motions here. I have them here. This is from, I'll link the article. It's just ga.ie if you want to go through these individually. But you can see in terms of the motions, they're listed out. I won't spend too long talking about the majority of them and just pick through the main ones. So I'll leave them on screen so if you can read them in your own time, though, if you so wish. But I want to go to straight to motion 5 first of all here. And you can see here, this motion is actually from Clontarf in Dublin. And I think a lot of it's to do, obviously, the likes of them throughout the years when Jack McCaffrey was playing for Dublin, for that sort of club versus a bigger club like, St. Vincent's, when they had a lot of Dublin players, for example, and Kilmacud Crokes, that Clontarf missing a player like Jack McCaffrey when he's effectively their only Dublin player, or at least I know they had one or two others as well. It just means they're so frustrated over the years of just not having access to Jack, particularly with the old inter-county split season where the game would have gone on, or the inter-county Sam Maguire All-Ireland final replays would have gone on in 2019, for example, to start of October job, end of September. So that's a long way. Majority of the championship's done, or at least the championship has been put off, and then Jack McCaffrey comes back and they have a couple of weeks with him, and then that's it. So this motion is from Clontarf about playing restrictions and eligibility for playing senior inter-county, and it's proposing that you can play for your county once you played 8 league or championship games for your club in the previous year, and that restriction will apply only to the senior inter-county championship. So it's effectively wanting players to be available to play both league and championship clubs throughout the season. And I think it covers for injuries, as in if you're injured, obviously you don't have to hit that 8 league or championship games. I think the idea of the motion is excellent. Don't think the wording of it's great. I think 8 seems quite a lot, and also I think given that, I don't see it getting the support necessarily, but from what I've heard is it will, a version of that could perhaps come in at some point. And the idea in principle is excellent, as I said. I mean, and I'm a club man through and through, and I'm a big supporter of the split season, and I feel inter-county players playing for their club is what makes and will continue to make the club game even greater. But I think that could be restricted a little bit, just given the amount of games there, and a lot of people perhaps going against it. But interesting to see how that motion gets voted on. Motion 6. I thought this was very interesting as well. So this motion's from Laois, GAA, and it's effectively get rid of the prelim quarterfinals. And given Laois played in a couple of those prelim quarterfinals, it would suggest that they don't really serve a purpose. I mean, Kildare last year let them celebrate rather than having to turn around and play Dublin in a meaningless prelim quarterfinal, So this is effectively means if this proposal's passed, the third place team in Leinster and Munster would simply play the runner-up of the province, if you get me. So you finish third in Leinster, you go straight to quarterfinal to play the runners-up. Whoever loses that Leinster final or Munster final, vice versa, if you get me. So yeah, and then that's the second element of the same motion. It's effectively saying the top team will qualify for the final in the Joe McDonagh, but the second and third teams will play in a semi-final, and then the second place team will get home advantage in that semi-final. Then the winner plays the final. So that's just a little bit of a change versus top 2, for example. So it'd be interesting if that proposed changes passes, and if it does, motion 18 won't be necessary. It's basically half of that motion, if you get me, which is just get rid of the prelim quarterfinal. So a lot in this GA stuff. Again, it's the only way we get things done, tradition and all that. So yeah, a little bit on motion 7. This is also very important, and it's to do with All-Ireland finals, and it states that All-Ireland senior finals have to be played at Croke Park. So there you go. Croke Park's everyone available for an All-Ireland senior final. We're in trouble. But it says nothing about minor finals, and they want minor finals to become curtain raisers to senior finals. And I think when this first minor finals were first taken away from senior finals, 2 reasons. People were upset the minor finals weren't getting the coverage they deserved on our All-Ireland final day, but also that there was no curtain raiser for the senior final. So I thought the GA made an absolute mess of this completely, not having something to replace the minor finals for a curtain raiser, any sort of game, instead of these concerts and stuff they're trying to do to bring people in early. And people's habits changed and people started coming in later, and all of a sudden I was going to Croke Park even for All-Ireland semi-finals, which had no curtain raisers, or at least an irrelevant curtain raiser. And there's massive queues outside the turnstiles, which I don't remember happening when there's a minor final and the crowd's coming in throughout the day. And it's just more simple, So I thought GA 0 out of 10 in how they did the change, because they basically didn't respect how important the minor final was for that All Ireland final day and replace it with something else. However, on the actual minor finals themselves, when they became standalone days and in Thurles, in Gaelic grounds, in Nolan Park, in wherever they've been played, packed provincial grounds, every family member and friends of players playing get a ticket, which I think is a very important point missed. And I think over the years, people have not only got used to that, but I've started to enjoy that live on TG Cahir and, you know, played a lot earlier than the All Ireland football finals or All Ireland finals, senior finals. And it was just a better spectacle, I think. And I think the players enjoy that being the main part rather than a not even half packed Croke Park. Let's be honest, 20% full, maybe 40 to 50% full by the end of the game, 60%, So I can't see this motion passing, to be honest. I expect it to be defeated. I think minor finals should have their standalone games. I did see a good point on this during the week that maybe have them as part of the All Ireland final weekend on that Saturday night. And I think that could be a great idea. So have Nolan Park hosting, 15, 20,000 people for the All Ireland minor football final, and then following day having the senior football final, and then that's a bumper weekend. Don't know how that works calendar wise, but I think that could something that could work. And maybe you should never try and please everybody, but that's sort of try and please as many people as you can from that motion. So just an interesting motion. Can't see it passing myself. This motion's from the GPA, and it's basically to do with the duration of the senior intercounty playing season, as you can see there, and the new proposal introduces a limit on the extent of the season to 30 competitive weekends, including all competitions, and that's excluding an All Ireland football or All Ireland final. Sorry, I keep saying All Ireland football final, All Ireland final, or football or hurling final, obviously. So that's a sort of motion from the GPA, and there's a similar motion coming up, which I'll just touch on here, and it's to do with the split season. A number of these are just not irrelevant, but just stuff that probably doesn't appeal to the vast majority. But let me know if you have any questions on these motions or just in general in interest in these motions. We're about halfway there, so stay with me. This is very talk, but we will get to the split season. Very heavy talk. Sorry, apologies. This is interesting. Motion 13. Currently, winner of the day applies to all knockout games in the championship, with the exception of the All Ireland finals. This caught me out a few years ago. The first year, which would have been the Ulster final. Maybe 2023, the one Armagh lost in penalties, which one? But I thought it was going to go to replay watching it because it was in a packed pub and I was just switched off watching it. And I was, oh my God, of course, no, they've got rid of this. So I think it used to be like this maybe the year before they changed it to this current rule. So they want the replay to cover provincial finals as well. I can't see this passing either, but we will see on that. We will see. The proposal to move the dates of the All Ireland finals back a couple of weeks. So this is the big one. This is the split season, motion 14. And I think when Jarlath Burns first decided to bring this motion, I say he would have expected it to pass quite comfortably. I now see that effectively being the other way around. I think there's been a lot of strong support for the split season. For me, the split season has worked unbelievably well. Like, I genuinely do believe that it has been sensational, and it has allowed club players to basically plan their holidays around knowing they're going to have summer football from August onwards in championships. I know that structures of different club championships are long, convoluted, and yes, of course, if they pushed out the inter-county season by a couple of weeks, it's not going to be the end of the world or anything. But I think, we've gotten used to the July finals. Every single year becomes easier and more, you remember them more, as in, okay, July finals, let's switch on. And it just means that club season has such an open window. And I don't think anyone outside of journalists are really asking for this to be pushed back a couple of weeks to August. I think by the end of July, you have all your inter-county season though, and you can focus on the club. And the GA made a great decision during COVID to start supporting the club more, as in let's give our club players as big a shop window as possible. And obviously money wise, they've lost out in one sense in terms of the length of the season, but you've seen the packed houses for the Munster Championship, even throughout the latter ends of the championships, especially with the new football rules. And I feel people are starting to get into that habit of where everything is now in the new calendar, and to move it back again, I just don't think it makes any sense. I think the split season's here to stay in its current form. Yes, there's a lot of things I would change, but none of it's to do with the dates. It's to do with the structures of the championship. And that's a whole different video I might do if people are interested in terms of how I would structure the year, given the amount of weeks. 30 weeks was mentioned earlier. So I just fundamentally disagree with this motion. I think most counties are ultimately going to say no to it as well. That's the vibe from what I've heard last week and the start of this week. So delighted, to be honest with you. And I feel that can start putting an end to that. And I feel for the first time it's moved to, I think it was always the silent majority of the split season, but I feel it's been a vocal recently of people saying, now, hang on a second, this is working very well. And it was interesting to hear the Galway chairman, I think, during the week saying he's seen stats the saying the playing rate has gone up a lot in adult football, and that would point to maybe the split season having a better effect than people realize on this. So I'm happy for it to stay. Let me know your thoughts if you would like to see the finals first and second weekend in August. Plus, you have that bank holiday. Like, what do you do every year there? Do you do the hurling final one year, football final one year? Or do you just, yeah, it's a bit messy with that bank holiday there too, I would say. And after that, most of these are fairly, again, read them in your own time, or you have them up on screen there. This is the one that's the same in terms of basically moving the prelim quarterfinals. If people disagree on Leish's second part of the motion, they'll go to motion 18 to be able to get rid of the prelim quarterfinals. So perhaps see them going. I'd be surprised if they stayed on. Interesting, I hadn't spotted this till I went through it, that there's a proposal to bring the descent rules applied in Gaelic football into hurling. The slight difference is that free in hurling would be brought forward 30 metres as distinct from 50 metres in football. I don't really know why it would be different in terms of the metres. Obviously, 30 metres is huge, is bigger in hurling than football. I understand that element of it, but I just don't understand why you'd not just make it 50 metres and give them a simple tap over. But I think that would work well. I don't know if that will get in. I think hurling people just don't want anything changed. And when I watch hurling played well, I understand why would you change anything about hurling. But I think some of the new rules of football could be applied in hurling and work very well. But I'm not sure about that one, whether that will get through or not. So very fascinating motion 19. We've got a few other motions here. I thought this was interesting and probably the reality where we are right now. So I'm hoping this is accepted, and I'd be surprised if it wasn't. The proposal helps to alleviate difficulties with small rural clubs. At the moment, teams can play 13 aside, but this proposal basically means you can bring that down to allow 12 aside to be played, and I feel that's a no-brainer. I always feel it's so much harder than like soccer, for example, obviously stating the obvious, when you just need, I found this growing up I was in a small rural club in the middle of Dublin, so we found playing numbers and struggled with them, but I played with a soccer team as well, and I was like, we need 15 for GAA, whereas we need 11 for soccer. So stating the obvious, it's a lot harder to get that extra couple of bodies. So I can relate a little bit to that. And I feel something like that is just a non-negotiable. I expect that to pass high and with flying colours. And then we've got the last few there, which is, fairly technical admin sort of thing. But that was just a run through of Congress. Haven't really seen that done anywhere in terms of going through each motion. It is maybe boring. If you stay to the end of the video, you love that sort of stuff. Let me know in the comments what you think on my opinions on the split season, and maybe just any of those proposals themselves, and what you would like to bring motion to the GAA Congress, because people every year are like, why don't we change this? Why don't we change that? You have to go to set up a motion. You have to go through your clubs, through your county boards. It's very technical, very old school, just the way it is, unfortunately. And you have to try and beat the system. Like I remember hearing, just for an example before I finished, that Clontarf motion, I've heard about that for the last 2 or 3 years, and they eventually managed to find a way to get it in on the desk, and whether it passes or not, who knows. So let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the video. All I ask, if you take 2 seconds, hit the like button and subscribe completely for free, and helps me continue making more videos just like this.